Memes. We see them every day on our social media. Funny pictures with a funny or relatable caption. They're harmless, right? What effect could seeing an image on your phone possibly have on you? After all, it's your own phone. You can just switch it off and stop looking at it. We've learned that it's not really that easy.
We are studying media literacy here at the University of Nicosia this semester. Media literacy encompasses the practices that allow people to access, critically evaluate, and create media. Media literacy is not restricted to one medium.
In our class, we have focused on understanding the meaning of media messages and its impact on people. Memes can be harmless, but what happens when they are targeted at a specific group of people?
In this video, we're going to be discussing some of the memes we have collected from the internet about the refugee crisis and the situation in the EU.
Right, so in this meme, we see that there's a lot of men walking out of the train. The quote is pretty clear. You see refugees. I see invaders. Where are the women, children, and old people? Some may interpret this image as men actually coming to war or for terrorist attacks, which I do see this in this image due to actually priority for me leaving those countries is women, elderlies, women with children. For me, this is key and what's important for people living from war-zone countries.
As well, what's interesting is the people dressed in the image, they're dressed in normal clothes, and this, obviously, they've chosen this image for a reason. They've chosen men who are clean-shaven and their hair is done because they want to portray that these people coming don't actually need help.
In this meme, we see Burj Al Arab, which is in Dubai, and basically the quote states, "Too bad refugees don't have any nearby countries rich in resources that could help them out." Dubai is very close to the war zone, which is it will be easier for refugees to migrate there. It is right next door. But there are many different reasons as to why they not go there.
The meme is basically a blame game. They're blaming other Muslims. Why aren't you taking your people in? Why should we take them in? That would also maybe give people the idea of, oh, they're not taking them in, so they're sending them to us on purpose. And that would make people think, why are they sending them to us?
Speaking about resources, I feel like it assumes that refugees are coming into our countries to get our resources and so on.
When we have this meme, welcome to Europe, have a blanket, she knows I'm raping her on it later, right? Probably started out as a bad joke, as a tasteless joke, but now it's been interpreted as immigrants just moving into other countries to rape women.
It's kind of stereotypical to say this person is a rapist because of how they look and because of where they're from. But it's also making fun of this woman who's literally only trying to help people.
In my opinion, I think the media has a lot to do as to how they portrayed this image, which actually it shows here that she's helping. But because of the media, we have a different idea on men and how they treat their women or women in general in these kind of countries, and that women do not have anything to say about it. Like, they cannot.
So in our next meme, where we see supposedly a Muslim man holding a decapitated head. When was the last time you saw anyone other than a Muslim holding a head?
Regardless of being photoshopped or not, still the media or any kind of resource is portraying images of Muslim or Islams of being terrorist, or that this is what they do. They cut heads in order to prove a point. They do cut heads, which that, again, on society, on Europeans, that they let them actually in their own countries. Why should people in their own country fear that this is what people do?
Exactly, and I feel like images like this as well, it makes it easy for countries to say no, we're keeping our borders closed, because if they're able to do this to their own, imagine what they could do to us too, the same thing. So the impact is
Yeah.
There you go. That's proof why people want to get out of the country, why we should welcome them to our homes, to our lands, because it's a bit horrifying. It's not a safe and healthy environment to live in.
Let's move on to the next meme. So on this meme, we can see a beach with two European on it. We can recognize it because it's written Europe. They seem to be peaceful. Then we see a big wave coming with a lot of refugees in it. It seems like the wave is like chaos and is going to flood and overwhelm Europe. It's not. I think it's not by chance that it is represented with the sea, because we always hear in the media that a lot of refugees are coming by boat.
I don't think it's insulting refugees, actually. I think it's just making a commentary on the refugee crisis, that there's so many refugees coming in and that they're going to drown Europe. But the depiction that there's only two Europeans to all those heads that we can see in the wave, I think it's a bit dramatic. It's meant to be dramatic to show you there are this many refugees coming in and this many Europeans.
And I think that the refugees are also represented like as a mass and not like as individual people.
That's true. It takes away that they're a person. It just makes them a problem.
Yeah, the individuality, like they're not human, they're just a swarm, a wave of people trying to take over another country when in reality they're just trying to survive.
Yeah, I think it's pretty interesting that they're using like a couple just laying at the beach. So it kind of gives like an implication, like, you know, Europe is this really calm, relaxed place, you know what I mean? And then all of a sudden this refugees just just come in and then causing chaos now in our countries.
In this meme, we can see Poland's Deputy Prime Minister, Beata Szydło, saying, "Where are you headed, Europe? Rise from your knees and from your lethargy, or you will be crying over your children every day." So she's telling Europe what to do with refugees. She wants Europe to stop letting refugees in. Poland has a really strict policy regarding the refugees. They don't let any refugees in, or only a few of them. The Deputy Prime Minister is saying that if Europe continues to let so much refugees in, they will be crying over their children. Why? Because of the terrorist attacks. For her, refugees mean terrorist attacks, and we can see it also in the memes, where we see red dots that indicate terror attacks, like in Europe and in different countries. But in Poland, there is no red dot, so no terrorist attacks.
And to me, it seems as if she's being prideful in the fact that, like, you know, her country, there are no terrorist attacks, like, going on. And it's basically, it's like she's saying, or she's, like, claiming, like, oh, you other European countries, you're so dumb because you're taking in all these refugees. Now look what's happening, you know? And this next meme, we see a crowd. It's a pretty straightforward question. Would Islamic countries welcome millions of Christians? Would these countries accept Christian refugees? The author seems to be implying that if the shoe was on the other foot, Islamic countries wouldn't be so quick to open the borders to people who have or practice such different beliefs from them. So it's like, okay, if we help you, would you also help us in a situation?
I think it's very childish and very selfish to be like, well, I don't think if I was in your situation you would help me, so I'm not going to help you. It's like making an excuse for why you don't want to help them.
And the meme is also asking like a simple question, even though the situation is not that simple.
Okay, this next meme, it's an accumulation of different pictures. You see pictures of explosions happening, refugees, a man that seems to be grieving, and soldiers. And basically the text of the meme says, the problem: Western governments destroy the Middle East, creating more terrorists than they can kill, causing a refugee crisis. Reaction: terrorists spill all over in other countries due to the refugee crisis created by the destruction of the Middle East, causing the people to beg government for help. Solution: more destruction of the Middle East and the destruction of the civil liberties at home, centralizing more power for the governments that created the problem to begin with. This meme is pretty self-explanatory. It speaks about how the Western government destroys Middle East, causing them to retaliate against the very same Western countries. Then when the refugees flood to other countries, they aren't let in because they are known as the terrorists here. Refugees, of course, needing help, this giving more power to the government, to the Western government.
So basically, it's the reaction of the Middle East countries is due to the Western governments destroying the Middle East, and then due to that reaction, the Western countries find an excuse to say that they mask as a solution the reaction to take advantage of the resources like petrol, gas, oil, whatever's available, and send troops there on tours. Then we wonder why they want to migrate to Europe because of this situation, and it's painted in this way that they're the problem to begin with, but they're not.
I think it's interesting that they say creating more terrorists than they can kill, causing a refugee crisis, because they are bombing these countries and things like this. So I suppose they might be creating terrorists in a way of people who want to defend their own homeland. But this sentence is interesting because it makes us think that the terrorists that they cannot kill, which the image is talking about, are the ones in the refugee crisis. So basically they're creating terrorists which they're then accepting into their own countries, which is an interesting way to look at it, because I don't think that everybody who's been in these places where they're being bombed are actually terrorists.
Yeah.
But this sort of suggests that when they leave to other countries as refugees, a part of them is. This next meme is made up of an animated drawing. The drawing shows us two doors. One is labeled European country and the other one's labeled Islamic country. The European door has a man with a moustache that I think looks similar to a Hitler moustache, looking out of the window, surrounded by European stars. He's looking over to the Islamic door and he's ignoring that outside his door there is a woman dressed in a head wrap and rags, and she's kneeling with an unconscious child in her arms. The Islamic door has a man dressed in robes leaning out of the window, pointing towards the European door, shouting, "Open the door, racists." Meanwhile, his door is blocked off by barbed wire, which has pieces of clothing inside, so we can understand that there have been people who have tried to enter but have failed. I think this meme suggests that Islamic countries are rejecting their own, and they're blaming and criticizing European countries for not taking them in. The meme spreads the idea that Islamic states are refusing to help their own and are therefore hypocritical, and dropping all their issues with Europe instead of facing them.
Also, I want to say that, like, again, the meme is like portraying the situation simple, although it's not simple. It's just like a woman going to European countries. European countries don't let her in, and Islam countries reject her or something like that. But it's not like this simple.
I think what's interesting about this meme in particular is I think it's criticizing both the European countries and the Islamic countries, because Europe has shut his door on them and he's not helping them. And I think the drawing of the moustache is interesting because it's the same moustache that Hitler had, and Hitler was against others as well. He wanted the pure German Austrian breed, and he was even killing off Germans who didn't look that way, not only Jewish people. So I think it's a criticism of both Europe and Islam for not doing enough. They might be doing something, but they're not doing enough. But I think they criticize them in a racist way, in a way that isn't fair to depict both countries like this, I think.
Yeah, I also think it's pretty interesting that if you look at the image, the European door, you just have like a door, but then the Islamic countries, you have a door and barbed wire surrounding it, so it's like almost extra protection, or they're just like extra against it, you know what I mean?
This next image has 3 males in it. 2 are in head wraps and they're all wearing sort of baggy dark clothing. This suggests that they're Muslim. They're also standing in an environment with fire in the background as well as smoke and rubble. This allows us to understand that they're set in a war-raged country, which is likely in the Middle East. They're jumping up and down with celebration, gives the view that they're not just content with the destruction around them. They're happy about it. They're celebratory about the destruction. And the caption then threatens that once they completely destroy their own countries, they will bring war over to other countries. This works towards building the fear that we've been talking about against refugees, and it reinforces the idea that allowing them into your country means that they will bring war with you.
They look celebratory, and again, it can be taken out of context. It could be rebelling against oppression. Don't know what's going on in this picture. Yeah, there's destruction behind it, but maybe they weren't exactly the ones that caused the destruction. It's just because they're in the same frame doesn't mean we have to judge immediately that they're the cause of the destruction in the background of the frame.
And it assumes that the people, like the refugees that are coming to Europe, are the ones that destroyed their countries, even though it's the ones that are fleeing from this.
And I think it builds a fear about the future as well, not just about the current refugees, but it makes people afraid of when their war is over, they're coming for us.
Yeah. In conclusion, a meme is not just a meme. Any message that we send out affects people. It forms a norm, and it plays on people's perceptions and understanding of a topic. Unfortunately, we as a society have become so used to seeing memes like this that we don't even question them anymore.